It's a lovely story, and it came from wanting to include something about oyster culture. I went to Rodney's Oyster Bar in King Street in Toronto. He's from PEI, and I thought he would direct us to some piece of shell or something that was significant for some reason. And instead he said, you should get something from Joe Labobe. And I reached out through the indigenous community on Lennox Island, First Nation. And we drove out, me and Lenny Gallant and a cameraman, and we went out across a very muddy causeway on a very grim day. And we went into their sweet little house, and Genevieve told us the story of her late husband's oyster shucking knife and how she prompted him to become an oyster shucking champion.
We went to the Oyster Festival, and I noticed they kept repeating, anybody wants to shuck oysters to register. So I told him, I said, you go, Joe, go try it, you never know. No, he says, I can't do that. Anyway, I talked him into it, and he went up and he paid his due, and he registered. David Banks was the champion the year before. 3 times they tied. It was always a tie between David and Joe. Anyway, finally the 4th time, Joe won him. And I thought the rink roof was going to fall apart. Everybody was roaring for Joe. Yeah, that's how he became an oyster shucker for Tyne Valley.
I think what's really resonated both for me and as I tell the story across the country, sure, we can all share Paul Henderson scoring the goal in Game 8, but I wanted to go beyond that. I wanted to have stories that reflected small communities and the stories that make us who we are on a local level and a regional level and not just on a national level. To get that piece that told this tiny little story from this tiny little place, it makes me realize, and it makes people realize, I think, that telling their story and recognizing, hey, things happen here in our community that we can be proud of and that we can tell generations to come. And that's sort of what it's all about.
I think that's what pulled me in, is that extraordinary story about an ordinary man that could be the everyman.
Born on Lennox Island, where the waters dance with diamonds, and nature casts a mighty spell. His love of life and family brought him slowly out his shell, and time would tell about a good pair of hands and a shucking knife, holding on tight for the time of his life. He could make a cut, a breakneck speed, doing his best to protect the beat. A little slice of heaven and a pearl of hope. He opened up a tree and wouldn't let go. Ah, the legend of Jowi Taylor. The world became his oyster, Tyne Valley to Galway, Ireland. Oh, how he made his people proud. An extraordinary story about an ordinary man who took his chance with a good pair of hands and a shucking knife, holding on tight for the time of his life. He could make a cut, a breakneck speed, doing his best to protect the meat. A little slice of heaven and a pearl of hope. He opened up a tree and wouldn't let go. Ah, the legend of Jowi Taylor. And now his knife is enshrined, a guitar ghost, taking its place from pillar to post, and holding on, not letting go. That's Jowi Taylor, with a good pair of hands and a shucking knife, holding on tight for the time of his life. He could make a cut, a breakneck speed, doing his best to protect the meat. A little slice of heaven and a pearl of hope. He opened up a tree